Bitcoin has seen a fair amount of volatility recently. We've seen Christmas be, quite a bit of a shocker for many retail investors, with Bitcoin dumping down the way that it did, liquidating many positions. We've seen support get lost, and we're hopeful that maybe support can be found again for Bitcoin and for the crypto market. But I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and opinions on what I think is going on with Bitcoin, with the crypto market, and where I think things are heading. As I get into the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button if you're new, subscribe. Don't forget to join us down in Discord. Link is in the description down below. Okay guys, let's jump right down into today's video. So with the volatility that we've seen over the festive period, we have seen a reasonable amount of liquidations for Bitcoin, coming in at the range of $36 million. Now, that might not sound like a lot, and it really isn't. It's not a huge amount of liquidations going on. But in the last 24 hours, we've seen about $36 million of liquidations for BTC. Now, some of you out there might be thinking, or might have actually been affected by this and might be thinking, $36 million, it's actually quite reasonable. In the grander scheme of things, it actually isn't. It's when we start bordering 100 million that we start to see a little bit more in the way of pain in the market, but we haven't seen a huge amount. $36 million. Now, with that, Binance is taking the top spot, which has been a little while since Binance was ranking the way that it has been most recently for these liquidations. Now, it's not surprising as Binance is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world by volume, and it still is, right? Even after the SEC and CC stepping down, all of those things, Binance still is the top exchange when it comes to the volume being pushed through it. And so it's not a surprise that, Binance is at the top of the list for liquidations. Now, what is more of a surprise are some of the other exchanges that were up in the higher range of liquidations for quite some time are not actually in the top two spots. The alarming thing when it comes to liquidations is the exchanges that don't normally rank as high as they are ranking today, historically speaking. So what I mean by that is 𝗕𝗘𝗪 as an exchange has had some FUD recently with whether they have been solvent or not, and lots of fears and things like that do circulate from time to time. They're actually in second spot for the exchange with the second most amount of liquidations in the last 24 hours, coming in at $8.5 million on their exchange. Now, obviously price pushed down, so it's no surprise that out of that 8.5 million, 7.75 million is long positions that were liquidated. It's not a surprise at all. But again, it's quite high ratios, right? We're talking 91% being long positions liquidated on that particular exchange, which is higher than you would normally expect to see things. So just if you are using that exchange, be very, very cautious with your positions on there. It does seem a little unusual. Put it into context, Binance, with the most amount of liquidations, 82% were long positions. Anything above the average, I would be kind of questioning, why they are the way that they are. In third spot, you obviously have OKX. Again, it's not an unusual one. We see OKX usually up in the top 3 spots. But what is unusual is then you see in fourth position, BitMEX. Now, BitMEX, I don't understand why it's as high as it is, but it is up there, rank 4. Now, we're not talking huge volumes. We're not talking like massive multi-millions in liquidations. We are talking just $4 million in liquidations. But it is higher than places like Bybit, for example, and I do find that a little bit unusual. Again, when it comes to the ratios there, 98% are long positions, which again, it isn't unusual to see large liquidations in the long positions going on, right? Because prices moved down, right? We've taken out some of the recent support levels, and we've seen new lower lows on the hourly time frame. So it's understandable that that particular kind of price action is going to lead to long positions getting liquidated. But 98% or 91%, which is quite unusual. Okay, it's unusual to be as high as it is. So I'm not going to kind of walk through the woods in the middle of of nowhere kind of saying, I expect foul play. I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's probably just that there's a load of bullish people. Maybe there's specific influences in the world, I don't know, that are just pushing those exchanges and putting out some really bad advice, you know, saying that, you know, we're in the bull market and we're going long right at the very top. I don't know. But what is unusual, and so I wanted to kind of talk about it today. Now, when it comes to the price action of Bitcoin, my expectation is that BTC is likely to see further downside. That's not to say that we can't have some kind of relief rallies. I kind of spoke about this in this morning's video, where, you know, we can see a potential bounce, a bit of a rally back to the upside, but I don't think it's going to be sustained. I think ultimately our goals are to bring Bitcoin's price more down towards kind of 30 to 35,000. I think that's a nice comfortable area to be aiming for. Gives us a nice healthy correction in Bitcoin. It allows us to basically lower those stochastic RSIs and allow us to kind of continue moving a little bit higher in price chart later in 2024. It does mean that we might see a bit of a false start in 2024, as in we might see a bit of a run and a bit of a rally in January 2024, just ahead of the Bitcoin spot ETF kind of news. But ultimately after that, I think we are likely to see bigger corrections in the market, and we are likely to see, you know, Bitcoin kind of retracing down quite aggressively towards those kind of $30,000 targets. And if we can't keep those levels of support, then of course we should be expecting Bitcoin's price action to unfortunately drop down a little bit lower, where we could see targets around 26k to 24k and 19.5 to 21.5. Those are going to be some interesting points of reference for Bitcoin as to whether or not it's able to hold those key areas. And if not, then, you know, we're right back into those bearish territories. Now, there are a lot of moon boys actually starting to turn a little bit more bearish, and that may be a positive sign. I don't know. I'll leave that for you guys to kind of say and jump into the world of and come to your own conclusions on. But ultimately, I think we're getting close to the end game now, where we have this next big correction and we really do start to go parabolic from there. Okay, we are waiting for a couple of key things. We're waiting for, obviously, the Bitcoin spot ETF approvals. That's one thing that I think will be a sell the news event, mainly because I think most people were buying in on the anticipation of approval. They're not waiting on approval to buy. They're probably waiting on approval to sell. And then, of course, we have the Bitcoin halving event, which historically has either been flat in price action or we've seen a bit of a sell the news event there. Then we have a Fed pivot where they reduce interest rates over in the States, and that in itself will, well, it's bullish in itself, but ultimately will only happen when the market is its weakest, meaning that we usually see a 50% correction in the stock market. And so all of these things I think are going to happen in early 2024, leading us into, you know, maybe mid to late Q2 being where the bull market really kind of gets going again, and we start to see some really good runs to the upside. So I think where we are right now is, it's very interesting. We've kind of consolidated, we've moved back down a little bit, nothing major. If we do lose the 40k support, then of course, you know, we will be looking at those lows, you know, 35.30. And for the most part, I think 2024 is going to be a very interesting year with massive amounts of opportunity if you choose to see it that way. I'm going to leave the video there though, guys. If you have found it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.